This is it, the jewel in the crown of the South African cross-country racing series, the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race. Its name may be a marathon in itself, but the desert, as it's also known, is an icon in Southern African motorsport, and the 2017 edition of the race was no exception. All the action is brought to you by Toyota, Ford and Total Exilium in association with the SACCS. It's a race with a proud history stretching back decades. Over the years, it's become a backdrop for myths and legends where heroes are made and lesser humans falter. But the desert has also become a playground for the gods of the sport, where they smile and frown upon the competitors in a seemingly random fashion. But then, this is the desert race, and at 1,000 kilometers in length, it isn't for the faint of heart. Welcome to Juneng and round 3 of the SACCS, the only marathon event on the calendar, and by far the toughest motor race in Southern Africa. This year the action returned to the area around Juneng in southern Botswana, but route director Audrey Roots made sure that competitors would face many new challenges by adding miles and miles of new track to the layout. As a result, this year's desert was as tough and gnarly as any before it. But before we get into this year's race, let's have a gander at what's been going on in the championship after the first 2 rounds of the season. The season got underway on the 31st of March in the northwest town of Lichtenburg, an area well known for its love of cross-country racing. It was a tough, dusty race with plenty of excitement. The drive of the race had to go to Johan Horn, who had a poor qualifier but then charged his way up to a class victory in Teague, giving the 3-car Ford team something to think about in the process. Overall victory in the production vehicle category went to Leroy Poulter and Robbie Howie in the Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hilux, whilst Jannie Visser and son Chris Visser Jr. took home the spoils in Class S. So a pretty good race for Toyota, cleaning up in all the production classes. On the wild side of the paddock, it was Stefan van Pletzen who drew first blood in the Class A for the special vehicle category, whilst John Telford racked up a win in the Class Bs. But then came the freezing cold and very aptly named Battlefields 400, set near Dundee in KZN. Referring to this race as cold and wet, however, sells it well short of the bitter weather conditions experienced over that particular weekend. And what a battlefield it was, even for some of the top boys. Janelle de Villiers was unlucky to roll his Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hilux onto its side in qualifying, but redeemed himself by scything up into second place overall before the race finished, just behind teammates Leroy Poulter and Robbie Howie, who took overall honours for the 10th time in a row. In Class T, it was Ford NWM Puma Lubricants' Lance Woolridge who fought back bravely after a tough qualifier to take the victory in Class T. In Class A, Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen got back to winning ways in the King Price Extreme Bat, whilst John Telford made it 2 victories from 2 starts in Class B. So how did these performances translate in terms of the various tables? Here's the details. This year saw the introduction of an overall championship in each category, regardless of vehicle class. And topping the standings after 2 victories was Toyota Gazoo Racing SA's Leroy Poulter in his Class FIA Toyota Hilux. Johan Horn, also in a Toyota Hilux, was in second place, with Gareth Woolridge, the first of the Ford Rangers, on the standings. Brother Lance trailed by just 6 points, with Poulter's teammate Janelle de Villiers rounding out the top 5. Behind the leading pack, Henny de Klerk was the best of the rest, with teammate Gary Berthold just behind him. Rookie cross-country racer Henk Lategan shone on his debut, but DNF'd in a big way on round 2, leaving him in 8th overall. Jason Fencer was in 9th in the 4x4 Mega World Toyota Hilux, with Chris Visser completing the top 10. In the Class T battle, it was Gareth Woolridge topping the charts after 2 rounds, with Johan Horn a single point behind him. Lance Woolridge was in 3rd, Henny de Klerk in 4th, and Gary Berthold rounding out the top 5. Class Class S sees Jannie Visser leading the way in his Toyota Hilux, with Richard Leek Jr. in second, David Huddy occupying third, with Heine Stumpfer and Archie Rutherford yet to score points this year. Over in the special vehicle category, it was the name of Evan Hutchison that topped the standings after round 2. He had Stefan van Pletsen just 8 points behind him, with Maurice Fourie in third on 36. John Telford was in fourth, whilst one-hit wonder Lance Trethewey completed the top 5. The picture looked similar in the battle for Class A honours, with Hutchison leading the standings, Van Pletsen in second and Fourie in third. Trethewey was fourth, whilst Kutsia Labaskakny snuck into fifth place on this particular leaderboard. Class P was topped by Telford, with Werner Kennedy in second, Nick Gosler in third and former quad racer Brian Baragwanath in fourth. So after that marathon championship catch-up, it's time to focus on the marathon matter at hand. The Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race. As has become the norm, this round also included the SACCS motos, making for a massively busy DSP at Jwaneng. At the same time, tens of thousands of spectators descended on the mining town to share in the spectacle of the race. To make things even more attractive for the competitors, Toyota SA Motors also sponsored the Dakar Challenge as part of the 2017 Desert Race. This initiative offered competitors the opportunity to win a free entry to the world's most spectacular cross-country race, the Dakar Rally. Here's ASO's Xavier Gavori to explain exactly what the Dakar Challenge entails.
It means that one competitor from Southern Africa will get the chance to get his free registration on the Dakar for 2018. So that's it's a once-in-a-life experience, the Dakar, and this little support, which is not little, it's consistent, will probably help a competitor to step in and go in South America next January.
But there are several rules that govern this challenge, as former Dakar competitor Johan van Staden told us.
All right, so Dakar 2013, our competition, we won the Dakar Challenge in 2012. You can only enter once, it's meant for rookies. So we've been there twice, we're disqualified automatically from entering the Dakar Challenge. So we're definitely going, but that wouldn't advantage us at this point.
One man who was eligible for the Dakar Challenge was Henny de Klerk. The Treasury One Volkswagen Amarok driver had his eyes on the €28,000 prize for a while and was focused on making the most of this opportunity.
Most important for us, it's the Dakar qualifying race for us. There's a Dakar Challenge. If we can win the Dakar Challenge, we get a free entry into the Dakar for next year, which is obviously worth quite a lot of money and will give us a great opportunity, another platform to kick off.
For the lads from Ford NWM Puma Lubricants, the desert race was clearly important. But just as clearly, team principal Neil Woolridge had a very specific message for the boys. Score points, never mind how many.
The main aim is to finish. Any double points is better than no double points. But for sure, we're going for a nice, good, strong result here because it can set you up nicely for the rest of the season.
This race, I think, is going to be very influential. Double points. So we want to push as hard as we can, but we also don't want to do anything stupid.
At the same time, Ford NWM Puma Lubricants teammate Henk Latergan was hoping to come back strong after his big crash at round number 2 of the championship at the Battlefields 400.
Everybody says a crash like that will set your limiter a bit. It doesn't feel like it. We were comfortable in testing, comfortable with the shakedown yesterday.
Latergan may have DNF'd on the previous round, but his teammates had Johan and Werner Horn in the Malalan Toyota Hilux all over them. The Toyota crew, however, seemed unflapped by their standings in the championship and were hoping for a good, clean race in the desert.
So yeah, the plan is to finish and try to have a good result. We're tight on points now between us and Ford.
Former Ford driver Chris Visser has been campaigning an Atlas Copco Toyota Hilux this year. The new car has shown incredible pace at times, and Visser has been mixing it up with the leaders regularly. But turning those performances into points so far has eluded him.
Yeah, I must say we had a quite big disappointment at the previous race. We did a couple of testing afterwards and the car's good and looking really forward to this event.
But what about the head of the field? Leroy Poulter has had an unbeaten run of 10 cross-country races and was the odds-on favourite to take the Desert Race honours yet again, having done it twice in the past.
We've put a lot of work into the suspension from the last race, and with the soft sand here, it plays a lot into the role in being in Argentina, so a lot of work has gone in, and hopefully we've improved it and can do the same thing again.
One man who could potentially upset Poulter's apple cart is Janelle de Villiers. The former Dakar winner finished second on round 2 this year after a DNF on the opening event, but he was hungry for a win and ready to take on the Desert Race.
It's a tough race for sure. It's quite long and a lot of bushes and stuff here, quite tight terrain which you got to navigate. But we got a very good car and looking forward to the race, definitely.
Over in the special vehicle paddock, the King Price Extreme lads were also getting ready to do battle. Evan Hutchison led the standings after 2 rounds, and the experienced racer had some interesting insight into the race.
2 good days, yeah. I think it almost seals it for us. We're back in the lead of the championship, but there'll be a long story to be told from this race. There always is. It's always an interesting event, and hopefully we've done our homework back at the workshop, and we can be at the finish line.
In hindsight, those were prophetic words from Hutchie. So those are the key players, and here's the playing field. 1,000 sandy kilometres through thick brush and across open landscape. Tight and twisty in many places, with sections that allow you to hook 6 gear and plant it in between. Never mind if you love it or hate it, the desert always makes for an interesting race. Join us after the break as we bring you all the action from the first 60 kilometres of this year's race, better known as the qualifying race.
This week on Ignition GT, Renwin gets behind the wheel of Mazda's new CX-5.
Is it confident and sure-footed wherever it treads? Yes.
We get an insight into the life of a motoring journalist.
As the years go on and you drive more cars in the same segment and that sort of thing, your reference point is much better.
Tumelo takes a limited edition Isuzu KB for a spin around our off-road course.
So we're going to give it a bit of speed, but just enough speed to get up the hill.
And we evaluate 4 of the biggest players in the B segment hatch market.
I would also go with the Mazda 2. I mean, it's not the cheapest here, but I think for what it offers, 230,000 Rand seems quite reasonable.
That's Ignition GT this week on DSTV channel 189.
Welcome back to the desert, a race that is more than just the race. With limited accommodation in town, many teams and fans opt to take the opportunity to camp out in the bush, bond, relax, and take part in the race. As such, the area around Jwaneng has become a landscape dotted with tent villages, but few of them as impressive as 4x4 Mega World. Boss man Dion Venter tells us more.
Okay, this is a yearly thing we do for our sponsors and our staff and customers, is we bring them out to do the desert race. Use it as a bit of a marketing tool and a bit of a incentive for our staff. So we bring out management and stuff like that, and they bring their top customers out, and we spoil them a bit.
But enough about the peripherals. Back in Jwaneng, it was time for the qualifying race, used to determine the starting positions for the main event. There was an air of tension in the DSP, despite the total distance of the day of only 60-odd kilometres. This is the desert race after all, and every kilometre represents some hard-fought progress. But more than that, starting position can be critical, especially if you're chasing down something as elusive as a free entry into the Dakar Rally. But then suddenly, it was go time in Jwaneng. The qualifying race may have been run over only a short section of the main route, but even so, conditions were trying at best. Some competitors had a tough time out there, such as Jacques Van Tonder and Leander Pienaar in their Ford Ranger. Even so, the pair completed the qualifying run in a time of 45 minutes 29 seconds, putting them ahead of the mass start on the race day. Ahead of them, Richard Leake and Henry Cohn had a reasonable run in their Class S Ford Ranger. The pair were fresh from their first class victory, but were still fairly careful about taking on the desert, as navigator Cohn told us after qualifying.
Long straights, high speeds, sandy, lots of whoop sections, kicking the arse a bit of the car.
Unfortunately for Leake and Cohn, 3 Class S crews finished ahead of them on the qualifying race. The third of these were the pairing of David Huddy and now Rodney Cook, racing the ex-Robin Yates Nissan Navara. They were beaten by 4x4 Megaworld's Heini Stumpfer and Henry Hugo in their Toyota Hilux. But the fastest time in Class S was set by veteran racer Jannie Visser. The man from Barberspin, partnered with son Chris Jr., set a time of 40 minutes 42 seconds, placing him on pole in class as a result. While Class S can offer some close racing at times, it's the guys in Class T that make for some of the most exciting battles at the moment. Former quad racer Brian Baragwanath recently joined the Class T fray, and together with Leonard Creamer campaign a Ford Ranger in the SACCS. Their time of 4 minutes 15 seconds placed them 10th on the grid for the main race. 4x4 Megaworld's Jason Fenter and Vince Van Alleman were keen on a good performance in the desert, but a flat tyre robbed them of a better qualifying result. They ended the day as 9th fastest in the Class Ts, losing 3 minutes on the winners.
We could change it before anyone could pass us, so we came back ending in a good result for flat tyre on 60 Ks.
8th fastest was the man with his eye on the Dakar Challenge, Henny de Klerk. Partnered by a Kim Bergman in the Ford-powered Volkswagen Amarok, the businessman ran into the dust of a car ahead of him, but was still optimistic about his chances.
For most of the race, it was difficult really to push because of the dust in front of us, but we kept it clean. I just kept my head down, made sure that we didn't make a mistake.
Dion Venter and Jaco van Aert in the second 4x4 Megaworld Toyota Hilux posted the 7th fastest qualifying time, with Henk Ladegan going 6th fastest in the NWM Ford Puma Lubricants Ranger. On board with him as he attacks the desert, and just to show you how big the crowd support was out there. Ahead of him, Chris Visser and Jarpi Badenhorst posted the 5th fastest time in their Atlas Copco Toyota Hilux, with teammates Gary Berthold and Phil Hurselman going one better in their Volkswagen Amarok, and so to the sharp end of the field. Third step of the qualifying podium went to the Horn brothers, piloting their Malalan Toyota Hilux with aplomb. The brothers kept it clean and finished just 24 seconds behind the winners. And the top 2 steps of the podium? Well, they went to the Ford NWM Puma Lubricants team. Clearly, team principal Neil Woolridge's pep talk had worked, as Lance Woolridge and Ward Huxtable set the 2nd fastest time. They were pipped to the post by a scant 5 seconds as teammates Gareth Woolridge and Boyd Dreyer took the win. As the onboard footage shows, the crew had to work hammer and nails to try and get the power down in the thick Kalahari sand, and with it, some road crossings thrown in just for good cause. But in the end, 2 stunning drives makes Woolridge Sr. a very happy lad.
Double points, so we put a huge effort into it. We renewed everything, gone through the whole car, all the cars, and really done our homework, so it's really important that we really get good points.
This left the boys in the Class FIA, where 3 cars took the starters' orders in Chuneng. Third fastest of these was Johan van Staden and Mike Lawrenson in their Renault Duster, while Chanel de Villiers and Dennis Murphy went 2nd fastest in the first of the Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hiluxes. But the man of the moment and overall pace setter on the day was once again Leroy Poulter, with Rob Howie at his side. The pair blitzed the route in just 35 minutes and 51 seconds, giving them a handy opening lead of 25 seconds over their teammates. Out on the track, the prologue loop gave teams a very good idea of how the track was going to be running in the first 500 kilometers. And Poulter and Howie were absolutely dialed in from the get-go, and it was hammer time. The crew loved to lead races from the front, and this set the racing weekend up perfectly for the two.
perfect. It's as we said earlier, to get the car to ride over the bumps here. It's really, the guys have done a really great job. The car was perfect there, and able to push through and just obviously qualify pole for tomorrow.
So here's how all of that translated in terms of the overall production vehicle qualifying race results. Quickest of the bunch was Poulter and Howie, followed by De Villiers and Murphy. Woolridge and Dreyer finished third fastest and first of the Class T machines. They had Woolridge and Huxtable within sniffing distance behind them. Horn and Horn rounded out the top 5, but behind the leading pack, a venerable plethora of competitors were straining at the leash, just waiting for starters to let them rip their way across the Kalahari in hot pursuit of fame and glory. That, however, is a story for a different day. Join us again after the break as we look at how the qualifying race panned out for the special vehicles on the Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race.
Don't forget to catch the Extreme Festival of Motorsport from Swartkops, a double header. And what incredible action we saw here. Big crowds coming out to see all the two-wheelers and four-wheelers in full flight. Formula V were in the house. So were the Volkswagen Challenge. And two-wheeled action, as always, from Bridgestone Challenge and Thunderbikes. Don't forget to catch all this action on Ignition, DSTV, channel 189.
If ever there are a bunch of cars that look at home racing in the Kalahari Desert, it has to be the special vehicles. These Mad Max machines have oversized tires, massive engines, and a tubular construction make them look like spiders on steroids. And they're raced by a special breed of lunatics that make do without windscreens, breathing clean air through a device known as a Parker pump. Absolute madness. But spectacular madness, if there is such a thing. And on Friday, the 23rd of June, a whole bunch of these crazies took to the starters' orders in Jwaneng. Most of the special vehicle field completed the qualifying race without too much trouble, proving our point that these machines are right at home in the thick Kalahari sand. With that said, Sean Van Rooyen and Gene Rogers might have wanted to go a little bit faster in their VRC Racing Century CRT. Then again, recording the 4th fastest time in Class P was hardly a bad thing. Third fastest in the class was John Telford and Victor Nsheki in their Hellcat. The pair had had 2 victories on the trot and were odds-on favourites to make it a hat-trick. They were beaten on the day, however, by Werner Kennedy and Tinus Venter in the Liv Lesotho Aceco. But class honours went to the man with the beard, Nick Gosler, partnered with Andrew Massey in their Zarko Magnum. But traditionally, the biggest battle in special vehicles is up front with the Class A machines. These rip-snorting monsters sport massive V8 engines and are a sight to behold. No fewer than 9 Class A's lined up for the start of the qualifying race, though 2 of them, that of Keith Dutoy, as well as the King Price Extreme machine of Scott Berger, failed to finish the qualifying loop. Berger was clearly disappointed, but still looking forward to the rest of the desert race.
Not a great start, 30 kilometers. They just confirmed we broke the clutch, and luckily we've got a spare.
It was a disappointing qualifier for John Thompson and Marisa Matten in their Zarko, who went 7th fastest in Class A on the day. They had Kurbis and Marinda Fari just 2 minutes ahead of them, whilst the Macanettis recorded the 5th fastest time in their bat. 4x4 Mega Worlds Kutsia Labuskakni, partnered with daughter Sandra, brought the Porter home in 4th fastest, leaving only the top 3 to fight it out for the qualifying podium. 3rd fastest on the day was Marius and Yolinda Fari in their bat, with Stefan van Pletzen and Jaco Pieterse just 11 seconds ahead. They took 2nd place. This meant that former champs Evan Hutchison and Donnie Stassen won the qualifying race by the best part of 1.5 minutes. A handy margin in the desert, thank you very much.
I win them today, I win them all. Yeah, we had a lekker run. There was some beautiful terrain, just exactly what we were hoping for out of the desert. Some super high speed, whooped out stuff, which was fantastic. We had a clean run.
And here are the final overall results for the qualifying race for the special vehicle category. Hutchinson and Stassen topping the standings, with Van Pletzen and Pieterse in 2nd place. Marius and Yolinda Fari taking 3rd place, with the Labuskaknis in 4th and the Macanettis in 5th. So that was how things stacked up during the first 60 clicks of this year's desert race. A truly action-packed qualifier with plenty of jostling for position, especially at the head of the field. The race itself was of course an entirely different animal, and there was just over 900 kilometers still to go. But more than the extreme distance was also the double championship points on offer, as well as the small matter of the entry into Dakar by way of the Dakar Challenge. We don't want to put the cart before the horses here, but let's just say the 2017 desert race was one that won't soon be forgotten for a variety of reasons. There was the battle between the two Toyota Gazoo Racing SA Hilux crews, for instance, not to mention the heartache and pain experienced by some of the competitors. But at the same time, there were first-time winners in each class, which might give the results away to some degree, but the race itself was still very much worth watching. For now, that's all we could fit into this episode, so join us again next week when we take you through both race days of the 2017 Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race, the jewel in the crown of the South African Cross Country Series. We'll see you there. All the spectacular, dry and dusty action from the 2017 Toyota Kalahari Botswana 1000 Desert Race was brought to you by Toyota, Ford and Total Exilium.